Hey, Dragnout, what's going on? Ooh, let me fix one thing. Be right back. All right. How have you been? Little Stella. This is not a sponsored stream, but you know, gotta rep the ZED sponsors a little bit. Nice. Probably get into some dark liquor over the holiday. Not a big bourbon guy myself, but I have to dabble bourbon or scotch. Give everybody a couple more minutes to jump on. That's right. But you already know all the stuff I'm going to cover, so. So you say. So you say. Did you qualify any horses for the tournament? Yeah, a little bit of salt. Okay. I wasn't sure what the what the rule there was. Hey, Hitman, what's going on? I'm just gonna have a kind of laid back stream tonight. Haven't streamed for a little bit. Needed to take a little bit of time off, but there have been a lot of updates. Zed's been busy, and wanted to make sure I hit on some of those before I travel for the holidays. I'll be back online tomorrow to do a little bit of tournament coverage, but I'll leave most of the main tournament coverage for Zombie tomorrow for Joe. What's going on, Pyro? In Los Angeles, what's going on, man? Deuces. How's everybody doing tonight? I only had one horse qualify for this tournament, but I'm excited. Yeah, me too. Hey, man, I have one mid runner qualified for B out of the. I only tried to qualify 2 horses. I've got a couple horses stuck up in Class 1 that I was running, and had one hit the mid runners, and the other just miss out. So. Hey, Drew Spar, Conor Rake. Yeah, CJ's taken a little bit of time away from the stream. Just some personal stuff and working on some other projects and stuff as well. But wanted to keep this rolling for you guys. I'm sure he'll be on again in the future. but just with the regular streams, he won't be on as regularly. And I'm sure you guys have seen him to the extent you guys are in our Discord. I'm sure you guys have seen him around. He's still very much involved with Zed, but as far as streaming goes, it's just going to be me for a little while. Nice, Drew Spar. Yeah, 5 horses, man. That's a pretty good haul. I know one guy that we work with. I don't know if Ice is on, but he's got 7. A couple other people I know have 4 or 5. But especially if these weekly tournaments are a thing, it's it'll be interesting to see how to balance the paid cash racing with some of these tournaments. They're still pretty good sized tournaments. I mean, even if you money, even if you advance out of the first round, you get a little pay. I've got the payouts for this tournament and the new one that was just announced. And Sanjels, we've got our own Discord. If you look, I don't know if you're watching on mobile or on desktop, but if you look on the desktop, there's a little button for Discord down below the video that you can click on. I haven't logged on to our stream from mobile, so I'm not exactly sure how it shows up on mobile, but if you visit our Twitch page, you can jump into the Discord. Deuces, yeah, everything that I have seen, I mean, that with the class point change, I'd be surprised if they took the 250s away. I think a lot of horses are going to be up in class 1 and class 2 with the changes, and a lot of them aren't necessarily competitive enough to run in the $10 and higher races that were in there. So I was really happy to see those lower buy-ins get added back in. Hey, Retro. Yeah, man. We've got I've got the hat. I've got the little beanie. I didn't want to wear it today. It's not quite cold enough down here to do that yet. And I've got a t-shirt too, that I've been wearing the last couple streams, but I'm doing some laundry before the holiday. So that one's stuck in the laundry. Might have to get a hoodie now that the weather's getting a little colder here. Yeah, Conor Greg, I we'll have to see what they do with the classes, whether it's ELO or something else. But I think overall pretty positive. I mean, we can talk about the point changes a little bit. I was going to cover a lot of other stuff, but I think there are pluses and minuses for the point changes. I think with where we're at right now with the same class restrictions, you could argue that I would argue that they should really go back to the 4-3-2 for first, second, third, and then leave the rest of the point changes. I think that would be a pretty balanced system. Hey, Ice, what's going on, man? I was just a little brag about you getting 7 horses in, man. That was pretty freaking impressive with the running this week. So I'm not sure I'll be up at 4 a.m. with you, but I'm definitely trying to get up to watch my race. I think mine's at like 7 a.m. So I've just got the 1 horse in though. Not all of us have the resolve you do of running. What was it? 300 races this week or 400 races this week. So yeah. So that's crazy, man. 20 horses. Yeah, I really only tried for 2. So, but hey, and we've all got a shot at this new tournament. So we'll see. But hey, let me pull up some content. I wanted to kind of walk through. Today is really meant to just be a chill stream. Talk to you guys kind of before I go home and see some family for the holiday. I'll be online. I Probably won't stream over the weekend though. I do want to stream a little bit tomorrow for the tournament, but like I said, I don't really want to take the focus away from Joe and the zombie tournament coverage. I think that'll be awesome. We can talk a little bit more about that. Connor Greg, really appreciate the sub, man. The 3 months. There we go. One of the OGs. Nice in San Angeles. Yeah, we'll see you in there, man. You'll see some different stuff. We've got some channels broken out there for just general chat, a little bit of tourney chat, a little bit of marketplace and breeding. If you've got questions there or horses. So, all right, let me pull up this content, start walking through it, and then obviously, as you guys have questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll start going through some stuff. So, last stream was almost 2 weeks ago now, on the 11th. So we talked about the Fibonacci tournament, which we've been talking about that a little bit with getting some qualifiers going. Those races start in about 5 hours. So that'll be great. And then we talked a little bit here and there about some other changes that have been made, the update to the horse pages, and started to hit on the class point changes and some of that stuff, but didn't really go into that in as much detail. Unfortunately, I didn't have time. My work has been so crazy, as some of you guys who talked to me a good bit have seen. I've haven't been nearly as active as I wanted to be. But I don't have any updated racing stats. I will try to get some of that posted to Twitter with some of those charts that I usually show you guys on the number of paid races that are being run, the races by class, the races by buy-in. I think that stuff is interesting just to kind of keep an eye on the racing environment and how things are going. So, if I don't specifically stream that, I'll definitely try to get more of that shared because I like to keep you guys kind of updated there. And same thing with breeding. Obviously, one thing I'll talk a little bit about is the breeding changes. I wasn't the biggest fan. I complained a little bit when they were announced, and I want to walk you through kind of my thoughts there. But I'll also get you guys some updated stats on the number of horses that have been bred since the change was announced, and kind of what my thoughts there. So, so like I said, last stream was, I think, the 11th. On the 12th, which a lot of people kind of speculated, including us, they did a big skin drop for the NASCAR pass holders. And so, that was one cool thing to see was, Zed dropping those 1,000 skins, different rarity levels. So you've got 5 different rarity levels. You've got the 5 ultra rares. And you can see them here. Well, you can see the 83. I think that's one of the mid-level ones. Pretty cool looking skins. They're not as cool as some of the sponsored ones like the Atari or the Stella or the Preakness, but I think they're a great start to the sponsored skins. Yeah, Avonfield, that's right. Yeah, I'll jump into breeding. We can cover a lot of content there. So yeah, but in case you guys missed it, all the NASCAR pass holders got their skins on the 12th, distributed directly to your OpenSea wallet. So cool to see. A lot of us speculated when the NASCAR passes came out that would be kind of one of the main benefits of being a pass holder. But I really, with all the tournaments going on, all the sponsored races, I'd be surprised if we didn't see kind of NASCAR sponsored races or races specifically for pass holders in the near future. So I think it's cool. A lot of us were wondering kind of what that would look like, why we should pay what ended up being $600 now with prices now for these passes. And it seems like, Zed is moving forward on creating some value there. So again, generally a good update to see there. Nothing too crazy though. I thought some of the skins look great. Some of the skins just look good. But again, it's kind of personal preference there. So one big update. So let me look. I'll pull up the racing just to have it on screen. But one big change that they announced was horses can only run in the same class. That's something that CJ and I have been pushing, not loudly, but something that we thought would really be helpful in limiting some of the downclassing and limiting some of the things that Zed was trying to combat. I think that's a little bit more directly helpful than some of the point changes as far as helpful for the racing environment. But so I haven't looked at where some of the super horses have settled. Obviously, with the tournament, you've seen a lot of those horses kind of move up in the class structure. 6 points for a win really kind of pushes horses up, but I think there are some different ways Zed could deal with that. But I think overall the combination of same class racing and some of the point changes are general positives. Again, CJ and I are not as negative on downclassing and kind of strategically racing or running in the meta as some people are, specifically some creators or some people on Discord or Twitter. But I think we definitely understand kind of the thought process there. Yeah, Connor, I'm not trying to name names. I mean, there are definitely names that I could kind of say that have been more vocal about downclassing and the negative aspects of it. But I really think that the same class changes were a big thing in making sure that, horses that want to run for bigger prize pools are sitting in class 3 and above where they really need to be. So I see. I mean, and kind of on those prize pools, to me, it makes sense to introduce some of those bigger buy-ins back into class 5 and class 4. Maybe keep $5 down in class 5, but definitely $15 in class 4, or maybe a little bit above that. I think you can argue that there are enough horses running in class 3 and class 2 now that you're not going to see a lot of people kind of downclassing into class 4 to run some of those $10 and $15 races if they did introduce those back. So yeah, Origin. I mean, I get that viewpoint on trying to lose is not really something you should do, but in the same time, I think we, again, CJ and I haven't been super vocal, but I think our standpoint, or my specific standpoint, is it's a game, right? It's there are some aspects of real life horse racing here. The horse culture, the breeding, the trying to create these super horses. But I think that in the end, this is still a game, and for the game, it's how to be successful, right? And so in my mind, if being successful and maximizing your profit is settling in specific classes where you can be the most competitive, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the counterpoint to that is we shouldn't have these horses sitting in class 5 and class 4 that can run and win $50 and $100 races, up in class 3 and above. And I think that same class really helps that. So yeah. Abbenfield, I don't remember if I called it out, but really appreciate the sub, man. Appreciate the 1 month. So, talked a little bit about the class changes, jumping into the breeding fees, I think that's a huge thing. A couple people mentioned they were breeding a little bit more, which is great. I initially reacted pretty negatively, and the reason for that is was not necessarily the change itself or the thought around. Yeah, Retro, really appreciate it, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, and we'll catch up soon. And yeah, Ice, that was really my reaction. Was the market has been hurting, and anytime that you can, you can kind of have to drop, you have a fee drop that will lead pretty directly to market prices coming down. My initial reaction was pretty negative. But, I think the counter argument and what we're seeing is increased breeding really does, supply doesn't usually, this is the economist in me coming out. I have an economics background. The supply doesn't usually lead to demand, but I think you can argue that more interest in the game, creation of more horses, different levels of horses, more breeding in general could bring more interest in general to the game. And so, yeah, that's right. Kind of, Greg, I think in the end, where I've settled is, I'm going to pull something up in a minute on the breeding fees. I'll go ahead and do that. I think making breeding more affordable is good. But I think that where they've missed the mark and a further improvement that Zed can make is, and what we've been saying for months now is, yes, great. They fixed the calculation, the breeding fees that were finally implemented in, what was it, August, were what they were meant to be, with the graduated curve, NACA's being at 0.135 and then down, and I know Golden Glow has mentioned it before. My biggest issue that remains is where legendary and exclusive fees are. It just doesn't make sense to me that it's only $12 more expensive if we're looking at US dollar prices. It's only $12, $13 more expensive to breed with a Genesis NACA stud versus a legendary NACA stud. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable with these fees, and it doesn't really feel like they're affecting market prices. I think the market has been generally positive the last few weeks. But what I'm hoping we see is, hopefully the Genesis fees will stay where they are, or maybe even go up a little bit. I think it should cost money to breed with a Genesis. But I think what would really help the market and help the demand for breeding and help the volume of breeding is to reduce these legendary and exclusive and below fees even more, and make it more cost effective to breed with these horses. Because if you increase the demand for legendary studs, then you could see higher legendary prices. You could see the floor start to creep up, right? Because you're driving value for legendary horses, right? You're driving value for exclusive horses. You're not going to necessarily see a lot of people purposely, finding elite and cross studs to breed with unless they're in-house. But I think if you have more of a graduated curve, if let's say if this was, even 0.07, you have a $50, you have a 15% discount to breed with a legendary horse. When you look at the the base ability, as we've talked about, there is a step down in base ability if you're breeding with a legendary generally, but a 15 to 20% discount from Genesis prices would be kind of more than enough to make up for that in a lot of cases. So yeah, exactly, Evan. I think the more you encourage legendary and exclusive breeding, the more you encourage the creation of exclusive horses, that will actually flow up. Increasing the supply of legendary horses without making them, more competitive in the racing environment or more competitive in the stud fee environment or the breeding environment, that is where I struggle with. And so to Ice's point, I think if you even had different base fees for different breed types, that might encourage some stratification in the market. That might encourage, it won't really change necessarily the demand for Genesis horses. That we'll have to see what happens with the next drop, whenever that happens, whether that's 3, 4, or 5 months from now, or I doubt it's going to be sooner. But if we are moving toward that Q1 of dropping Q1 2022 of dropping the rest of the Genesis horses, then encouraging breeding down at that next level, I think will be a little bit more of a healthier environment. So, yeah, drag down. I need to sit down and look at the new fees and put together a little bit of a schedule. But I did that at the old breeding prices. I suggested, when they asked for feedback in July, I suggested that they actually increase the Genesis breeding premium from, I think the current number is 180%. So you have a 180% multiplier for a NACA and a 180% multiplier for Genesis, and that's how you get on the base fee of 0.045, and that's how you get to 0.081. My thought was, if you increase that Genesis premium to like 300%, you don't have a huge step up in Genesis breed costs, but you create a gap between legendary. You could also do that with base fee. So I'll circle up with you after the stream. I'll put together a couple charts and walk you through those. But I don't have a specific kind of updated view. I had a very strong view when the correct calculation was implemented, and I just need to go back to that and do some math. So jumping back to the questions, Origin. I think there's debate on what the kind of balance of base ability for a Genesis Zabo versus a Nakamoto Legendary. I think as long as those fees are pretty close, then I think that's reasonable. The counter argument for making legendary Naka and legendary Zabo prices too low is you do want to limit the supply to some extent of those breed types, right? And breed type and bloodline combinations. So I don't necessarily think that just because Naka legendaries might have slightly lower base ability or even base ability, that you have to base the breed fees specifically on that. I know that some people argue that. I think you can balance making Nakamoto's a little bit more exclusive, not the breed type, but just exclusive in the general sense of the word. So I think there's some balance there, but it's a good argument, right? And then I'm just catching up. Roy Redry, yeah, that's a good point on the Naka elites, and I think that's another argument for not necessarily basing the breed fees purely on what we think base ability might look like. Between some of the numbers that BG mentioned a while ago and then some of the work that Shady's been doing, which I'll mention it on stream. And I'm still talking to him about potentially coming up and talking about the tool that he's developed. I think there's some argument about balancing baseability and trying to kind of work the market around that versus making different breed types make sense and limiting the supply, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, Ice, I think you and I view things pretty similar. Like you said, I mean, that's a very succinct way of saying it. There should be a little bit of a premium built in for breeding with a NACA. So, yeah, Aquila, I think there are arguments both ways there. I think I would argue that if you have Buterins and it's cheaper to breed into, NACAs and Zabos, you could see more crossbreeds. You could try to inject some of that kind of higher baseability from the higher bloodlines with your Buterins, and hopefully get high variance, and then also start in a lower class and be a little bit more competitive that way. But I can see the argument both ways. A lot of Buterins aren't getting bred with anyway, unless you're in house. They never have, or unless they're super rare coats or good racers or have something going on for them. So again, that's another kind of piece of the puzzle of trying to balance what the breed fees look like for different bloodlines, what the breed fees look like for different breed types. I think there is a happy medium there. And that was my only issue with the fees that were announced, was there's really no breed type balance right now. There never really has been. So, hey, Tussy, what's going on? And Dragnet, yeah. No, I've never had a bet where I bet the wrong horse and that horse has won. So that I'm glad that worked out for you. And yeah, Avonfield on Shady's tool, I'm gonna mention it. I'm really glad that he put something together. It's very much based on the theories that CJ and BG and I have worked on, and kind of looking at what we think baseability looks like, trying to isolate that on 1600 meters. I'll jump into that in a second. So I think we've kind of covered the minimum breed fees. That was another big change that came up. Look, I've landed where I'm pretty happy with where we are, except I think we need to see kind of further development on making other breed types more marketable. I think it would be healthy for the market. So let's see. And then another big change that really wasn't that controversial was ZED announced that they were eliminating the Rake, and so that was this week. And so we've seen the last few days races start to go off with no Rake. And so if you're looking at what payouts have looked like historically, so all the way through June 2nd, you had first, second, and third 60, 20, 10%, which worked out to be 7.2 times your buy-in, 2.4 times your buy-in, 1.2 times your buy-in, and then ZED took 10%. We actually did see a shift, which Ice, I think you were one that pointed out to me. A couple other people pointed out to me. I completely missed this because I didn't race that much. But one complaint was, well, if I'm really kind of just making my money back when I get third, that's not very balanced. And so one change that ZED did make was they took a little bit of the first place money away and distribute it to second and third to make the payouts a little bit more balanced. So again, with the class point changes, this wasn't it's harder to have a very good winning horse or just a good winning horse, right? And keep your ROI up with this reduction. So the one big positive for taking away the rake, which this has been the breakdown recently. So you see a little bit more for second, a little bit more for third, and then your first place return to what it was historically. And so right now, I think this is a pretty good balance. 55 to 60% to first feels about right. And then you've got a pretty good chunk of money for coming in second, and it's a good outcome to finish third now. Yeah, in San Angeles, I've been really bad about updating YouTube. I've been super busy with work, but my goal is to, over the holiday, when I have some downtime, to log in, rip all the videos down, and pull them all over to YouTube. So I'm going to try to get as many videos uploaded this weekend as I can. This will be one of those. All of our VODs will be available on Twitch for 2 weeks. 2 weeks at a time after broadcast. So regardless of whether they're on YouTube or not, come back to the Twitch page and feel free to watch whatever content you missed. So again, with us not being as active the last couple of weeks, it'll really just be my last stream and then this one for now on Twitch. But you'll start to see, again, more and more of that content over to YouTube. It's just a pain in the ass to get those videos over. So appreciate y'all's patience and, having those videos be in a little bit more digestible form and available. But you'll start to see a lot more be pulled over to YouTube and a lot more content in the Discord as well. I'm hoping my work calms down a little bit so that I can focus on that, especially over the holidays. So, So we talked a little bit about the race fees and the rake. I'm happy with that change. I think a lot of us are. I've seen the argument that it would have made more sense to keep the rake in place and put that into some more sponsored races or some more kind of higher, not even necessarily higher buy-in races, but kind of inject that back into the pots for a limited number of races or pull that all into the tournaments. I think those are all good ideas. And they could always kind of go back to that, to pulling a 5 or 10% out of paid races and putting it into tournaments or whatever else. As you guys can see, Zed isn't afraid to make changes. Sometimes they're a little bit slow. But I think for now, in the short term, that this change makes sense, and we'll just have to see where it goes. So, all right. So we talked about a lot of fees, a lot of other stuff, a lot of breeding fees and this, that. So, other thing I wanted to call out, and I'm actually going to pull up a race now, is the Redwood City Classic. So there was one that was run, what was it, last week or in the last couple of weeks, that wasn't really advertised. That was a first come, first serve, $75,000 pot, huge, sponsored race from the Netflix sponsorship, the Harder They Fall, which is a pretty cool movie. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely go check it out if you have Netflix. Really well acted, stories, but it was pretty well acted. It is a little gory, so not necessarily a super family friendly movie, but definitely worth checking out if you've got some time. And so this one, Dan made an announcement, and we saw another race at 5:00 today. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up because, like Conor Rake said, it was a freaking fantastic race. You saw a lot of the big names. You saw Lucky Jackson there with Pikachu. You saw Good Boy put a couple of their horses in, a couple of their Nakamotos. Alhambrin in with his Dez. Keith in with Crimson Chin. Sentinel, which made it to the grand final in the first tournament. Milk Bar is another 2 fulls monster horse. Diamonds, Evergreen, great new content creator, and then a couple other horses in here from some stables that you've seen. So I'm going to shut up now and let you guys watch this race. But yeah, while we're waiting for this to go off, if you haven't seen some of Evergreen's content, I don't know if he's going to have me or CJ on. We'll see. I'll have to reach out to him, but he's been talking to a lot of people, putting out a lot of good YouTube content. So definitely go check his stuff out. A lot of nice interviews and information from some OGs, from some other content creators. So 1,000-meter race here, $75,000 prize pool, a lot of big stables, a lot of big horses. Pretty even race through 500 meters. Then we see Milk Bar go, and Dez go, and you're wondering, oh, is Milk Bar just going to go take it? Diamonds is trucking, and then you see Solid coming from the outside. And then in these 1,000-meter races, you always see these late-breaking horses. So you see these huge names, Sentinel and Crimson Chin, coming at the very end, but Solid held on. Diamonds got there, and then Sentinel got up, and Crimson Chin was the last man standing. So, but fourth, the pity point without the point for Crimson Racing, but really fantastic race. I hope they keep doing these. Little too rich for my blood. I don't have any horses that are competitive in here. I haven't for a while. But I think it's awesome for the ecosystem to have it. So yeah, go back and watch that. If you filter the results for Class 1, 1,000 meters, went off around 5 o'clock today, about 6 hours ago. Go back and watch it and check out the horses and see how they balanced out. So pretty cool stuff. We'll have to see if they do another one of those or another couple one of those, or if they have other sponsored content. I mean, obviously they've announced some big partnerships, and we've seen race tracks. We've seen the Flemington track. We've seen the Stella track. We've seen the Atari track, NASCAR track. But this is really the first time that they've had that big sponsored race with the big prize pool. It's a $3,000 buy-in, so it's a huge buy-in, right? But $36,000 in, and they chip another 40 grand on top of that. So pretty crazy. So that's more of a one-off. And then we have tournaments coming up, right? So we have the Fibonacci ending, the second tournament, 1 week. A lot of us were running a lot of horses. And so, in a little over 4 hours, we're going to see the quarterfinals go off. And so, a lot of you guys saw the first tournament and how those went. This is structured in exactly the same way. So you've got sprinters, you've got mid runners, and you've got marathoners, 1,200, 1,800, 2,400. The difference here is you've got the B tier and the A tier, and the prize pool split up. And so, they're running all of the B tier sprinters, B tier mid runners, B tier marathoners, and then the A tier. And then all of the races are going to be run tomorrow. So we're going to have a grand final tomorrow night. And these races will go off 5 minutes from each other. So definitely check it out. Hopefully you guys, I know we were talking a little bit about people having horses qualified. I had one horse, which was my little Z2 Genesis Polar Express, got in here. I think he's got a decent shot. We'll see. Soft Sympathy is kind of a beast at 1,800, and some of these horses are a little bit stronger. But there's a lot of balance in these races. So, and you see Archibald, you see Thors, you see Lucky Jackson here, Royd Rager's in here. If Royd Rager's still still around. Even in defeat's a pretty strong horse. So should be a great race. You see Remy in here. So I'm excited. But I think it was something like almost 1,200 horses qualified this time around. And like I said, I'm going to try to be on for a couple hours tomorrow, or an hour or two, talking about tournaments, talking about this and covering some races, and also talking about the new tournament that was just announced, which is the Pity Point Cup. And so Pity Point Cup is very, very similar in format to the Fibonacci. Same kind of setup, A tier, B tier, same qualifying distances, 1,152 horses in, same distance funnels. But the difference is the scoring system. So as the name implies, you want to get fourth place in this tournament, and that's going to get you qualified. So I think this tournament, you'll see a lot of horses with high base ability qualify, like you've seen in the last few tournaments. But because of the really positive points for fourth through sixth, I think you'll see some donkeys, that will have chances. That said, a lot of donkeys running in all the same races, the placements could be a little bit random, but it'll be interesting to see. And I haven't even had a chance to think about will it be better to be an A tier or B tier? Because once you qualify, you go back to trying to finish first through third, right? But I think there could be some interesting dynamics around which horses will average a higher number of points. If you have really strong horses, they might actually end up qualifying in the B tier because they're winning or getting second a little bit more often. And they're kind of reducing their average number of points. Avonfield, I think it'll be mixed. I think you'll have a lot of the same, Nakamoto's and Genesis that you're seeing in these tournaments, because a lot of those do finish kind of second through fourth. But I also think you'll see a lot of those middle placement horses, especially the horses that get a lot of fourths and fifths, and just aren't as strong, that will be very much advantaged in these tournaments, and in this tournament specifically, I should say. So, and that Avonfield, that could also be, you could see horses that run in some of their off distances to, short runners running 1,400 and 1,600, or long runners running 1,800 and 1,600, to try to kind of hit these usually less favorable finishing positions. The other thing that some people have talked about, and I don't know how widely I want to broadcast this, but you could also argue that if you can get a horse down into the 80s for stamina and try to run it at that level, slightly reduced performance, especially in stronger free races, that you could see some of those stronger horses not finish first and second as much and slide back into third, fourth, and fifth. I don't know if that'll work. We still haven't been able to quantify, exactly how much stamina really impacts placements, except if you're running, well below 80. And honestly, if you're not worried about losing points, you could argue that running in that 50 to 80 stamina level could push you toward some of the middle placements. So something to think about, and obviously the balance of free races and paid races is another thing. There is, I think, a little bit more strategy in this tournament, versus just trying to win as much as you can and then trying to balance the class points that you're gaining. Here, if you're comfortable running horses that you have for middle placements, there are a lot of different ways you can get there. So, just something to think about. I'm not sure how many horses I'm going to run. I'll probably have 2 or 3 that I'm going to keep grinding with. But I think overall, and again, I don't have the stats on the paid races like I usually do. I'm going to try to put those together as soon as I can. But, I think overall paid racing has been relatively healthy, a little bit healthier than it was in the previous tournament. And so it'll just be trying to find your spots of working in some paid races, maybe getting some seconds and thirds, and trying to find strong free races and get those middle position finishes. There's a debate about, and I think I have the payouts. Yeah. So, there are some pretty good payouts here. If you're in the A quarterfinal, and you win that race, you're getting $400. I think that's right. And then, once you get to those kind of upper echelon races, these prize pools are a lot smaller than the last tournament, but there are still some pretty good payouts to be had, especially if you get lucky. If you don't have a superstar horse, and you get lucky with some of these fields, you can really win some pretty good money, especially in the finals and the semifinals if you can get there. So, I think the question about the strong horses, you can argue that these prize pools aren't necessarily enough of an incentive to take, again, I don't like naming names, but Princess of Power, there's an argument about maybe not downclassing her as much to be as competitive, and kind of trying a different tactic there. / there may not be as much of a incentive with these payouts. They're still pretty good money, but it might not make sense to specifically change some of the strong horse strategies to fit into this tournament. So you might see a few of the stronger horses shy away from this tournament and focus more on cash races or whatever else that has going on over the next week or two. So we'll have to see. So, but either way, I'm excited that I think the Fibonacci went well. I think we've got a lot of good races going tomorrow, and then I'm excited to see kind of the mix of horses that really get into this Pity Point Cup. To see if people really do change their strategy, or to see if we do see some donkey Buterins get in there and be a little bit more competitive and maybe make some money in the quarterfinals here. We'll have to see. So, a couple other random things that I wanted to call out, in case you guys hadn't seen. There was a wallet change on the ZED site. So some of the kind of different stuff they had here, they've removed. And so you have a top up, you have a transfer, you still have a direct access to your Polygon Explorer transactions. If you want to track your payouts and stuff like that, you just click on the link there. And then there is a little bit more visibility if you're still using the site to do your transactions. There's a little bit more visibility on what the wallet looks like. Wanted to make sure to call that out. No functionality changes if you're using the Polygon wallet or if you're using another bridge, the Narni bridge or the Hyphen bridge. And then they're also still working on the bridge with Biconomy, that I think we're all hoping will be cheaper to put money on and take money off. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that a lot of people were calling out was the terms and conditions. We did a stream on it a while ago in August, and wanted to make sure, because there were some comments kind of floating around in various discords that people were worried about accepting the terms and conditions and that there were a lot of changes. There really weren't. The only language that was added, and again, do your own research here, but the from what I have seen, and I did a comparison between the August document that we had and we streamed about to the document that everybody signed if you're still racing. The only changes were really adding bot language and adding the language about changing names and not using offensive names and stuff like that. So if you were worried about accepting the terms, we've really been racing with those same terms posted since August from what I saw. So hopefully that alleviates any concerns that you guys had. So that's really, like I said, a lot of changes, a lot of kind of straightforward stuff. Wanted to hop on and talk to you guys about the tournaments. The class point changes, the breeding fee changes, all this stuff that in my mind is generally positive. Again, CJ and I have taken a little bit of time, stepped away a little bit. I've had a bunch of work stuff going on, so appreciate you guys being patient with us streaming. It takes a little bit of time to put stuff together to talk to you guys about. Appreciate you guys joining and kind of talking through things with me tonight. Connor, Greg, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. So, Abbenfield, what? Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked a little about my job. I'm in finance. I've got a job that I like doing. It's just unfortunately has taken more of my time recently. So I would love to have a lot more time to devote to Zed, and I devote as much as I can. But that's part of the reason that I kind of disappeared for the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to try to be more visible, especially over the holidays. I'm going to try to get a lot of our content posted to YouTube. You'll start to see some changes to the Discord, hopefully some additions and some improvements. But yeah, I want to open it up to questions. I'll stream for as long as you guys have questions. So Abbenfield, when you say the 80 fatigue issue, can you give me a little bit more detail on that? I'm not sure I've heard about that. I know some people have had their stamina glitch. So that if you're running a bunch of races kind of in succession, if you're at, low 80s, sometimes there's a lag in the API kind of recognizing that. I hadn't heard of that one specifically. I'd heard of some people running races in the low 80s and not losing points because it didn't recognize the last race before they entered a race. Definitely if you're seeing that and you're pretty confident that you have 80 fatigue or 80 stamina, I would definitely mention that to the Zed team, and I'll try to dig in and see what I can find out. But as far as I know, 80 and above, you should still be losing points. That's exactly Abbenfield. That would be the route that I would go. So I'll see what I can figure out. I'll write a little note to myself. And the other thing to remember is with all these free races, I haven't double checked it because I've been trying to run ups. But one thing to remember is that with the free races, I think they're going to continue it where you can't lose points in free races. So I think that's how this last week has been working, and I would expect that to continue. But just keep that in mind. It's weird. I mean, like it might just be a programming thing where they have instead of a greater than equal sign, they have a greater than sign, or less than equal, less than, or something programmed in. But I'd be surprised if that was intentional. Every communication they've had is that 80 and above, you can still lose points. So, anybody have any questions about horses or any questions about anything else going on that I can answer? Yeah, Connor, Greg, appreciate you jumping on, man. Good luck. Good luck with the tournaments, and hopefully everybody will make a little bit of money these next couple of weeks. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna Hitman. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, CJ and I so we're gonna have to see kind of what we do. One thing we might do, and I'm actually really glad you asked. So, Hitman asked about Red Village. I know CJ and I are both pretty excited about that project. And I think Zed is excited too. I mean, they're advising on the project. I don't think they're as intimately involved as a lot of people were concerned about them being, or Zed being. But I think it's a pretty cool project. I grew up playing Diablo. I think the heroes look pretty freaking awesome. I got 5 champions. I unfortunately didn't get any R1s. But yeah, I've got a couple R2 druids that I'm pretty excited about, and a ranger, and I think the only thing I don't have is a paladin. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, and that is one thing I've talked to CJ about is, look, we're still bullish on Zed. We're still long term positive on Zed. I think a lot of the changes recently have been good, and there's definitely some momentum. You're seeing some positiveness come back into the market. I'm getting offers for horses that I just haven't gotten offered on for the last couple of months. But I think CJ and I will probably add a little bit of Red Village content, especially as we get closer to the game, and especially as the market gets a little bit more established. I think we're excited enough. We don't want to distract from Zed, but we think it's a pretty cool project, and we're both pretty excited to play the game. And same thing with Chicken Derby. I know CJ is not a big chicken fan, but I think there are enough of us in here that are that we'll definitely have to potentially talk chickens a little bit. It'll be a very small percentage of the time that we spend, but I could see us being, call it 70% Zed, 20 to 25% Red Village, and 5 to 10% chickens. I think that's a pretty good balance. Yeah. So, I know chickens are pretty controversial, but hopefully they'll release their beta soon. I think the market's still pretty healthy. That's right. Yeah, we can't eat our chickens for Thanksgiving, but hopefully we'll have some sort of utility for them in the next couple of weeks. So no, it's interesting, and it's a little bit of a different market too, right? It's like Mario Kart mixed with kind of crazy cartoony animation, and then there's a little bit of the Zed racing and that kind of atmosphere in there too. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, Red Village, Hitman, I'm glad you asked about it. We're pretty fired up about it. Definitely worth checking out. Again, definitely do your own research, as we always advocate. And we will maybe not go as in depth on statistics and stuff like that as we have on Zed. But definitely as that game kind of gets rolled out, we will, focus some energy on that and talk you guys through some of the data that we're seeing, just like we have on Zed the last few months. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Right now, all we can do is look at them and be proud of our champions, right? So, but hopefully soon we'll have a little bit of content devoted there. So, all right, guys, with that, let me look if anybody's online. I'm not seeing anybody that's usually. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Little bit of a shorter stream tonight, but really appreciate you guys joining, asking all your questions. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about the tournaments a little bit, and definitely, keep an eye out. I'll be online tomorrow for a little bit, show some races, talk the tournament, talk about, things that I'm seeing, and then, keep an eye out on YouTube for some more videos, and some of our older content will get posted up there. Definitely check out our YouTube channel. I think we have it linked, but if I don't, I'll add it to the Twitch page right after this. We've got some of our distance preference and some of our racing stuff posted there already. We've gone back and we've talked about some of the tournaments and some of the other stuff. And then we have our breeding video posted up there, which talks through all the initial theories that we had there. So, but yeah, guys, like I said, appreciate you joining me tonight. Good luck with the tournaments. Good luck with Fibonacci if you got horses in. Definitely, I'm looking forward to hearing about your donkeys in the Pity Point tournament, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a great night or a great day if you're in Australia. See you guys.